It's great to have you with us for another half hour of conversation with a notable Kansan. This week I'll get up close and personal with one of the state's top educators. He's a Kansan through and through. He has worked his way up to lead one of the most acclaimed school districts in this part of the country. Voters in the Maize Unified School District recently passed a $108 million bond issue to build more schools and upgrade existing ones. The strong 77% voter approval of the plan speaks to the importance families in the Maize District place on education. It also speaks to the effective leadership of Dr. Chad Higgins. Higgins is a lifelong Kansan. He was educated at Emporia State, Fort Hays State, Friends, and Wichita State Universities. Higgins worked in the Great Bend, Douglas, and Monterey school districts. Then in 2015, he was hired as superintendent in Maize. The Maize District is one of the main drivers of growth on the northwest side of the Wichita Metro. Families are drawn to the world-class facilities and award-winning teachers. Meanwhile, the quiet suburban setting is free from many of the troubles that tend to plague urban-centered districts. Nevertheless, public education everywhere faces challenges. It's Higgins' job to stay ahead of the curve and keep the Maize schools among the cream of the crop. Coming up, we'll ask him how he does it. We'll also find out what challenges him most and how he deals with the pressure of educating 8,000 students on a daily basis. You'll also learn the one secret he's never shared with anyone until now. So get set for an enlightening and revealing half hour with Dr. Chad Higgins, one-on-one. Hello, I'm Victor Hogstrom, and I'm excited to be joined by Maize School Superintendent Dr. Chad Higgins. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Victor.
Now, as someone who has devoted his life to public education, you must have really loved school as you were growing up.
You would think. I did love school. I was blessed with, a lot of good teachers. I grew up, in small town Kansas, and good teachers, good coaches. My parents were, committed to us getting a good education. Neither of my parents went to college, but were insistent that we be good students and continue to gain an education. But I would say, when I was young, never knew for sure what I wanted to do. I think, pilot or, astronaut, those kinds of things when you're younger, maybe professional athlete like a lot of young kids. But I think it was middle school when I started playing organized sports. Back then there wasn't much traveling team and those kinds of things. So my first experience with a coach was very positive, and really had a lot of respect for him and just felt like that was something I wanted to do. And I had several teachers all the way through middle school and high school that, I wasn't the best student as far as driven academically and sometimes even behavior-wise, but they always believed in me, they always encouraged me, and so all the way through high school and college, I knew I wanted to be a teacher and a coach.
So were you sent to the corner of the room sometimes since you didn't behave so well?
I have a few distinct memories. I remember a circle on the chalkboard that my nose was stuck in one time in second grade, and even got swatted once when I was in middle school back in the good old days. So.
And swatting is still legal in Kansas.
Corporal punishment's still legal in Kansas. I'm not sure if any schools are still doing it, but we certainly will not do that.
Not in the Maize School District.
No.
What were your aspirations when you were growing up? You thought about becoming a professional athlete and all of these things, but I guess the main question is, how did you direct yourself into becoming a superintendent of schools?
Yeah, I never really thought about administration, being a principal, until I was teaching and coaching. And really, as a teacher, had respect for the administrators I worked with. A few of my teacher friends, they decided they were going to go ahead and get their master's degree in administration, and even then I didn't feel like it was something I wanted to do. I enjoyed teaching, I enjoyed coaching. And then they went ahead and started their classes without me. One of them brought me a paper to read, to proofread for them, and I thought it was really interesting material. It was school law, and I kind of got sucked in, I would say. And then went ahead and started my master's that next semester, and really for the first time became, kind of the front row center of my class, hand always up, really engaged. School leadership really bit me. And 13 months later, I had my master's degree and a job. I just knew that's what I wanted to do. And, outside of a few rough days here and there, I would say I've not regretted it for a second.
Right,
so.
Right. You have spent your entire life in Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
But before we talk about why didn't you experiment outside of the state, how did you, first of all, get that first superintendent job? Because you have served as superintendent in various districts.
2 districts. This is my 11th year total. I was a high school principal in Douglas. I went there after 4 years of teaching and became an assistant principal at the high school. And then after 2 years as an assistant principal, spent 7 years as a high school principal, and really loved that job. Honestly, I would say it's still the hardest job I've ever had, but I loved it. Your connection with the kids and the teachers, but the grind of the job. It's early morning till evening. You're covering activities and ball games, and working very hard at those events. And it takes a toll on you, trying to raise kids and so forth. So I started thinking about the next level. Went ahead and got the college courses I needed and the certification I needed to become a superintendent. And as difficult as it was, because my kids' age, they were in 7th and 9th grade at the time, decided the right community was Mound Ridge at the time. Great community, great school. Felt like my children could make the transition, and I was ready for a career change. And again, that was maybe the worst time in the history of Kansas public education to become a school superintendent, because I went right into cutting budgets and cutting staff and cutting programs because funding became a real crisis. So it was a really rough first couple of years, but fortunately I was in a place that was amazing.
Have you thought about life outside of Kansas? Sometimes you have to leave a place and go outside the area to really meet the challenges of life and improve the skills, and then you come back and you're the hero.
Not at all.
No?
I love Kansas. Honestly, I get emotional talking about our state. I love to travel and see other places, other countries, but I'm always glad to come back home. I think it's why I get so passionate in conversations about public school and working with legislators, because I just think this is a great place to raise a family, to send your kids to school, to work. I'm a very proud Kansan. I even joke with people who get mad when outsiders make fun of Kansas for one reason or another. I almost say let them make fun. That way we don't get overcrowded, because I think if people found out how great our state was, we would then become like other states, maybe overcrowded and so forth.
How did you become superintendent of the Maize School District?
After 5 years, 6 years in Mound Ridge, decided it was time for. I felt like that last opportunity, the last place to try to be a leader. One of the challenges in smaller school districts like Mound Ridge and that size is you spend a lot of time in school management. I was the transportation director, I was the finance director, the communications director. I did all of the hiring, as far as, not all of the hiring, but responsible for all of the HR, federal funding and all of those things. So just keeping the ship afloat was a full-time job, and you never really felt like you could be innovative and creative and develop programs and improve things, even curriculum director for part of my time there. So I was ready to lead. I was ready to, kind of be creative and be innovative and work with teams of people to do things. And I get to do that in Maize. It's actually a dream job for
So
me.
what's the greatest challenge you have in Maize right now?
Well, lately it's been managing our growth. The district has grown pretty rapidly over the last few years, and so we've spent, really quickly last semester putting a bond issue together to expand facilities before we became more overcrowded than we are now. Right. So getting through that, I would say also special education, and that's not unique to our school district. Special education is becoming really challenging. It's hard, it's expensive, finding the manpower, the people that are willing to do it. Mental health is consuming a lot of our time to manage that when the resources don't exist outside. So we've had to take on roles that we didn't used to have to take on.
Dr. Higgins, what's unique about the Maize School District? It's the 12th largest school district in the state.
It's in that range. I think there's two special things about Maize. One, I think for a long time they've recognized that not all students learn in the same type of environment. So we have an alternative high school that's existed for more than 20 years that's been very successful. We have a virtual education, a virtual school that's been very successful. The district decided years ago that once the high school became too big, it was time to split, and so I think they're forward thinking and trying to do what's best for kids. In some cases, it may even cost more money, but it's what's best for students. And I think the other unique thing that makes me feel like I fit in there is. It's kind of a Western. It's a small school district that has nearly 8,000 students. It just feels like a family. It's my kind of people.
So how competitive are the school districts in the Wichita metro area?
I think that's one unique thing about education, public education. We really share everything. We're not competing. We want to have better test scores or better sports programs or music programs than the other schools, but not to their detriment. We don't want them to not be successful either. I think we just try to raise each other's bar all of the time. So we collaborate, we communicate routinely with each other. I have no interest in being better than another school. I just want our district to be better than it was the day before or the year before. And I think the metro schools all have the same philosophy.
So you've been superintendent in Maize for several years now. And superintendent in another district, so how has things changed over the years in education in your lifetime as superintendent?
I think in the last 11 years, the biggest change, well, one, the last few years, school funding has improved, so we were able to replace some of the staff, reduce class sizes, regenerate some valuable programs for kids, try to give teachers a raise. So that's been one of the positive things the last few years. But over the last 11 years, I would say the challenges kids come to school with, social, emotional, mental health issues, and we're the first line of defense, and in some cases we feel like we're the only support system that these kids have. And Maize, and rightfully so, we're a little more affluent suburban school district, but we have kids come from homes that where they don't have parents, where they don't have working plumbing in the homes, where they're sleeping on the floor, those kinds of things. And that exists everywhere, certainly in higher densities in other school districts, but it's still very difficult for counselors, teachers, principals to manage. We've become, many cases, parents, therapists, but I think the state's trying to catch up, trying to recognize. This last year, we've taken advantage of a grant through the state that the legislature put in place to help us at a manageable cost up front. Put some mental health workers in our schools to be liaisons to help those kids find the resources that they need out in the community. So we're starting to build some connections with community resources that are going to pay big dividends down the road.
I know you've just said that you don't want to be, say, better than the other schools, but some schools or some school districts are indeed stronger and better than others. Why is that?
Well, I think better or stronger may be, just depending on what you decide to measure. We have a great school district. I think we have and in suburban school districts, typically you have families that move to those areas, those parts of a metropolitan area for a different school environment or a different residential environment, or just jobs take them there. But we have a very supportive community. I think when your parents are engaged, in your booster clubs, in your PTOs, in your school site councils, when your teachers and parents have a direct connection, regular connection, I think that's what is our greatest advantage. Is we are able to create a family atmosphere. We have families that want and expect their schools to be great, and so we have to rise to that challenge.
So what do you see then as the essentials for improving schools?
Well, I think first and foremost, we have to get our teachers back to where they were, half a century ago, as far as the level of respect and appreciation for the work that they do. And I would say it's significantly harder to be a teacher now than it was 50 plus years ago. But I think as a society, we don't place the same amount of value on teachers as other professions. And so we're seeing that in kids out of high school not going into the profession. We see a large number of teachers getting out of the business, and it really is a good business. It's very rewarding, but it's hard work.
Well, the rap is that teachers are underpaid.
They are underpaid.
So students would not want to go to college and then spend all that money and time and want to teach to be underpaid.
Yeah, the catch-22 is if you paid them 3 times as much as they're making now, which arguably they earn, they work, and they deserve, then people who don't necessarily, they don't have the passion to be teachers go into the profession to make money.
Right.
And that's not who should be in the classroom either. We want teachers to do it because they love kids, and they want to be the same kind of influence that somebody was for them. And so, we don't want a job where people do it just for the money. But we also want them to be paid fairly.
So what makes school systems perform, in your opinion?
The people, I think. I think we're a different kind of people that get into education. They don't necessarily do it for the money. Again, I think the rap is there's all these days off or summers off, and that's not entirely true. I think a lot of teachers and educators work in the summer, but our people are just good people. They have the right foundation, the right base, the right moral fortitude to create the kind of working environment that is good for kids.
I'm sure you've spoken with many teachers. What would you say are their perspectives on what is wrong with our schools today?
I don't know that we would say things are wrong with our schools. I think, again, I think a teacher would say, a little more appreciation, a little more respect for the profession, a little more money would be helpful. Very, very valuable to them. But
does more money make a good teacher?
I think it would help generate more good teachers, or generate more people to join the profession and keep people in the profession. It would be a little bit more manageable. I'm sorry, what was the original question?
Does it make good teachers more money?
Yeah, and again, I don't want to just act like we have our hat out and so forth. I think we also need some more support, some more help. We have teachers that have 22 to 25 7-year-olds in a room, and if a half a dozen of them don't have or have no kind of support system at home, those students can be difficult to work with. And if we don't have the resources financially to provide the support, the manpower, or the help that they need, it's every day is just physically and mentally exhausting for those teachers. So it's not just more money in the paycheck. Sometimes it's more money to provide the support that they need.
So from your perspective, what kind of schools does the community deserve?
It sounds arrogant, but I think the kind of school that we have. I mean, if we could,
Like Maize School?
Yeah, I think our school, I think we do a great job. We provide an opportunity for students to learn in different environments. You know, we have traditional brick and mortar schools, which are, you know, are comfortable and successful for a large percentage of the kids, but we also have alternative high school setting, we have virtual setting, and we have high engagement with parents. We're working to get our class sizes down. You know, we're trying to stay ahead of the salary schedule. You know, that's one of the areas where we are competitive with each other in the area. We want to have the highest base salary or the highest longevity pay salary in the area, just because we're competing for a smaller population of teachers. So I think, again, I think we do a pretty good job in Maize.
Is there some bonus incentive for teachers in place in schools generally?
I think teachers want to work in a positive school culture, a working culture, an environment where they feel supported. I think we have that. If we don't have that, I certainly want to hear about it. And I'm not sure if that exists everywhere. I think in some cases there are more challenging students, less parental support, and they, you know, they just wear out, honestly. So I think, again, we're going to have an advantage in some cases because we have some of those things in place, and I don't think we're unique to other suburban school districts in our area. I get really discouraged when people compare us to Wichita Public Schools because they have an entirely different set of challenges, and I think they do a phenomenal job. Dr. Thompson has really done some amazing work in Wichita, and I enjoy learning from her as well. So, but right now, you know, and it's difficult. You know, my daughter's career, she was just talking about a big Christmas bonus she got, and she's not in public education. And I laughed. I said, I've been in this business, you know, 22 years. I've never, or my wife, who's a teacher as well, I've never gotten a bonus. There's nothing like that. And so it is a different world. And I'm not sure how we can create something to be competitive with the private sector.
There are different types of schools within our society today. Private schools, parochial schools, charter schools, home schools, virtual schools that you mentioned earlier. And what are your views on all of these schools?
I am a proponent, supporter of all of those types of schools. I think they all serve a purpose, they all have value. They just are not all equal. I think I get discouraged when people try to compare private schools and public schools in general. You know, why are test scores different? Why is it so much, you know, cheaper to educate per student at a private school? And really, you're comparing apples and oranges. The student populations are very different. I am not critical of private schools, charter schools, virtual schools, home schools. I think they're all great until the advocacy for those becomes detrimental to public schools. You know, public schools aren't well represented in state or federal legislation or you know, legislatures, and so we always feel like the underdog, even though we, you know, comprise a huge percentage of the student population.
So tell us quickly about the innovative agenda for the Maize School District.
Well, I think that's where we're blessed. I think we've tried to create a climate where it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to give things a try. And so we have a process where teachers can propose classes, innovative kinds of things, so we encourage that. 2 years ago, we opened our Career Academy, developed a partnership with the Airbus and Airbus Foundation, so our students this year are building their third airplane, which is, I think, only one other school district in the United States is doing that. And I got to fly the first one, the first one that the students built. I think our alternative high school is a good example of that, where our district recognized more than 20 years ago that not all students learn the same way. And we've had over 500 students graduate from complete high school Maize, most of which likely would not have graduated high school had they been placed in the normal brick and mortar school.
So when the students build that airplane, what do you do with them in the end?
So the first one is something that Airbus kind of shows off and parades and communicates that program. The second one we sold and used the money to buy the third one, because our financial partnership with Airbus Foundation will end with this one. And so we'll use the revenue from selling those airplanes to continue funding the program.
Okay, in the few minutes we have left, let's play a little game, take it to the light side of this interview. You tell me your favorite, and I'll give you an A, B, C, and D, not to pick from, but just tell me your favorite time of year.
My favorite time of year has got to be the middle of June. It's just a chance where things have slowed down for a second. I can catch my breath and then start getting ready for the next year. So, and I don't have to wear a suit and tie every day in June. So,
time of day?
I get to work really early in the morning, so I'd say 6 a.m. before the chaos starts.
Your favorite time of life?
I like life. I think I would go back and do any time of my life over again. I think everything's exciting.
Everything's?
Yeah. Sorry, I don't have a good answer for you there.
Your favorite place to visit?
I think anything with salt water. I really like to be on a boat or fish. The ocean is such a oasis for me.
Favorite place to relax?
Same thing? Yeah.
Your favorite place to eat?
I don't want to do an advertisement, but El Agave is my wife and I's favorite stop. Good Mexican food. So.
And your place to avoid? I wouldn't say favorite with that one, but your place to avoid.
I would say the 135-96 interchange, about 4:45 in the afternoon.
Okay. So what is the one thing that people don't know about you?
Boy, that is a great question. I'm not sure I want to answer it. I don't know. Both of my children are out of school and married, and I am anxiously awaiting becoming a grandfather. Nothing on the way yet, but I think I'm at that point in my life where I'm ready to be a grandpa.
And I'm sure they'll be maybe attending the Maize School District.
Well,
right?
I hope I can get them to this side of town. Yeah, they both work on the other side of town. So, but yeah, maybe I can talk them into it.
Dr. Higgins, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. And thank you for watching this edition of One-on-One. One-on-one@kpts.org is our email address if you have a question or comment. Until next time, I'm Victor Hogstrom. I'll see you again soon.